Well, we have a quorum present, so I'll leave it to the vice chair who's going to be chairing this morning. Neil Merritt, oh, there's Sean. Neil Merritt is away and couldn't attend. So Dave Condry, being the vice chair, is going to chair the meeting. Thank you, David.
You're welcome. Welcome, everybody. Our invited Waterworks presidents. Is everybody that was invited on, Kathy? I've only seen Jeffrey Faulkner on there.
Yeah, there are a couple more, Dick Kilhart, and a couple more people coming on, Sean Osborne. And when you're ready, I've been taking attendance as people come on, but I wanted to go over who's on the call and their representation so that our guests are aware of which associations and organizations are represented on the call.
All right, great. Why don't we do the roll call then?
Okay. Okay, so as I said, oh, by the way, just one more reminder, the meeting is a public meeting and it's being recorded. So we have Dave Condry, who represents a nonprofit association of investor-owned water companies, specifically the National Association of Water Companies. We have Elizabeth Ainsley Campbell, who represents a statewide environmental organization, the Nashua River Watershed Association. Tom Holder, who represents a regional waterworks association, in other words, New England Waterworks Association. Jim Starbard, non-community public water systems, and Jim is from RCAP. Sean Osborne, representing industry, and OSD LLC is the company. Blake Lucas, representing a Massachusetts statewide waterworks association, Mass Waterworks Association. Rebecca McDermott, a regional waterworks association, in this case, Western Mass Waterworks. And I also wanted to note that Josie Alberg is on the call. You may remember at the last meeting, we announced that Ariella Lovett was leaving the Mass Municipal Association, and Mass Municipal has recommended Josie's name for their position on the committee, and we have forwarded the request for appointment package to DEP's commissioner, who makes the appointments to the committee. And we'll talk to Josie in a minute to give a little introduction to herself, about herself. I wanted to note Yvette DePisa, the program director for the drinking water program, is on the call, as well as Nicole Della Porta, who works in drinking water. Kathy Romero, also in drinking water. As far as invited guests, we have Lexi Dewey, who attends our meetings. Lexi is the director of the Water Supply Citizens Advisory Committee to the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority. And on the call, we also have Dick Kilhart, an invited Waterworks president from Mass Waterworks, Jeff Faulkner from president of Mass Waterworks Association. Now, who did I miss? All right, good.
Kathy, just to clarify, Dick Kilhart's president of Western Mass Waterworks Association.
Oh, did I misstate that?
You said Mass, but that's fine. I just wanted people to be aware.
Okay. Yep, sorry. I do know that. Thank you, Jen. Okay, so David, if we could.
Yeah, if we could review
Josie, tell us a little bit about herself.
Sure.
Sure thing. Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Josie Alberg, and I'm the new legislative analyst at the MMA handling energy and environmental policy topics. So I'm kind of filling in the place of Ariella, and I know she's had some good history with your committee, and I'm eager to keep the partnership going and to represent, all 351 cities and towns in Massachusetts on this committee, which is very exciting. A little bit about me. I have now been at the MMA for a whopping 3 months, so very seasoned. But I come with over a year of background with legislative tracking and understanding, public policy research. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to the meeting and all that's to come. So thanks so much for having me.
Well, thanks for volunteering to be a part of the advisory committee, and I wish you well. And I know that I don't see any issues with anybody not nominating you into the position. So thank you again. Next on the agenda is the review of the March 22nd meeting minutes. Are there any comments, corrections?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Blake motion, a second.
Tom can second.
Tom was the second, so moved. Kathy, next on the agenda is the assessment program updates.
Yeah, David, just take a vote on the minutes, okay?
Okay.
The motion was made and seconded, but if you could just get a vote for me.
Do a roll call vote then.
I think you could just say
Okay.
yes or no.
Okay, I get a vote for yes or no on the minutes from March 2nd.
In favor.
In favor.
Yes.
In favor. I have to abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
So no objections, right? Correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Now we can do the assessment program updates, Kathy.
Yes, I wanted to report that billing continues to progress as usual from the last billing cycle. The assessment program has probably the highest success rate as far as people paying their bills, and that's thanks to public water systems being on the ball. So refunds are issued when people double pay, or occasionally there might be like one error in a given year of a system that went bankrupt, went out of business or whatever, and they were billed. So we just zero that out. But mostly it's just calls from small systems who may not have been a public water system before, or who did a business and need to be reminded about how billing occurs and what year we're billing for. So everything's progressing as usual. I also sent out to the committee a rolling list of communication, outreach, and trainings that I'm keeping track of. It's quite a long list, and we add to it all the time. The drinking water program Boston staff does a ton of this kind of work for public water systems and others. And we have a lot of partners that we do these trainings with. And we will use this list to highlight our outreach and training efforts in the committee's annual report for 2022 when we write it next spring. So are there any questions about the assessment program or about trainings?
Jen has her hand up, I see.
Kathy, I just had a question on two of the items that you had on that list. One being the Boston Monday staff presentation, and then the second being the EPA Region 1 Emergency Drinking Water Plan training that's coming up this fall. Could you maybe just tell us what both of those are?
Sure. The first item is that the drinking water program Boston staff, Yvette DePisa, has a meeting for us every Monday morning, and staff do a presentation for staff every call. So the staff explain some aspect of the programs that they oversee to make sure we're cross-training everyone and that we can back up each other if people are out of the office or, away or whatever the situation is, that we have some knowledge about the other staff's programs. So that helps to support the regulated community, I think, and others. The second question about the EPA training, I'll toss that over to Yvette. I know that staff are participating in that, but I don't have details.
He can remind me again of the specific topic. There's so many things that we're doing that keep.
It says EPA Region 1 Emergency Drinking Water Plan Training.
EPA Region 1 is putting together a training that's going to follow up on the AWARE requirements for systems having the assessments done, and systems over 3,300 in population, community systems, having their assessments done and ERPs in place. So right now, EPA Region 1 is taking the lead to work with the New England states to set up that training, and we are participating on it because I'm sure all water supplies in the state know that we have reached out on emergency response plans and our need to have them document the status of those plans in the emergency response checklist that they would do at the ending of May, but there's still a handful of systems that we are working with to get those ERP checklists filed with us.
Thanks, Yvette. Okay, David, that's all I had. At the next Section 70 meeting on August 19th, we will discuss rate data and ask for a rate recommendation. So that's all I had for an update.
Okay, great. Next item on the agenda is drinking water program updates from Yvette.
Thank you, Dave, and good morning, everyone, and welcome the Massachusetts Waterworks presidents, and also welcome to Josie and others. Drinking water updates. We all know that PFAS is a topic that's on everyone's mind because on Wednesday, EPA released its health advisories for PFAS contaminants, the priority ones being PFOS and P4. So on that, just so that you know, we are still evaluating how we will address those, but as you know, in our regulations, we are in the process of reviewing all of our work on PFAS, and we will now include the EPA new information in that work. So by next year, we're supposed to come out with information on how we will update our program. So the information from EPA is very useful in including in our research and information for that process. Also, EPA acknowledged in their support material that the interim health advisories that they came up with for PFOS and P4, that they're below the current detection limit. And for the current unregulated contaminants monitoring that they're doing, they identified a minimum reporting level of 4 parts per trillion. In Mass, we already use 2 parts per trillion for our minimum reporting limit. So we're paying close attention and reviewing every word. and hope to have information available for water systems in short order. And it's not only our water systems that we will be providing information to, we also have to do that for the private wells that participated in our free sampling program, and also other private well owners that we may have work with as part of the Bureau of Wayside Cleanup program, and then in general. So we do know we have some handful of systems that we're going to have to work with really closely, and I'm saying early next week we will have information to share. So that's it on PFAS. Another priority area for us is lead service lines and the upcoming LCRR. And in the updated information on the SRF program, we've already indicated that we will be including lead service line inventory work as part of current FY22 SRF applications, but also FY23. And we'll be accepting applications on a rolling basis. And for wherever EPA allows for 100% principal forgiveness, we will be following the programs to ensure that that occurs. We're from the program level, we are in the process of piloting lead service line inventory tools. The main tool being a spreadsheet that water systems can use to input their lead service line inventory that can be readily transferred into a transparent document that they can use to show consumers where lead service lines are in an electronic format. We're also working on a consumer sourcing tool that water suppliers can use to have consumers participate in helping them to do a preliminary identification of lead service lines. And we are also including a planning tool for water systems to indicate how and when they're going to remove all lead service lines. What are their plans and goals? And we've also started to work with EPA Region 1 on the evaluation process for optimized water quality control parameters for small and medium systems. So that's all part of our preliminary package of work on lead service lines. I want to quickly mention supply chain issues. We have been hearing from some water systems about issues, and we have a survey form where we collect information and we share that information with EPA or DPH or whichever agency will help us to help the water system to address the issue. Cybersecurity is also a priority topic for us, and we will be working with EPA and some of the other security agencies to have a tabletop exercise for mass water systems coming up shortly. We just attended a version of it in Rhode Island, and we will be bringing that to Mass. As you know, bi-weekly in the Main, we continue to have a special section on cybersecurity where we are providing all of the information that we have that will encourage water systems to be vigilant and to do whatever they need to do, whether it's accessing free assessment opportunities or letting us know if there are things that we can be helpful with. The program has a part-time technical assistance provider on cybersecurity who is available to us and to water suppliers as needed. And the last note is, like everyone else, recruiting and retaining staff is a big issue. In fact, this week, 2 additional staff who recently joined us have resigned. So we're like everybody else, just head down, doing our best to get, keep and maintain staff and continue to run the programs. Lots of other things going on, obviously, the annual statistical reports. Excellent response. I mean, it's better than we've seen it in like 10 years. We have the emergency response checklist, great response again. The CCRs are coming up. So we're doing outreach on that to try to get all of our systems to be, to do what they need to do by July 1st. And the model that we're using, where we're using posters and emails, they really seem to work. So I'm hopeful that all of our community systems will have their CCRs done in a timely fashion. And as you know, we also do a water quality report for our non-community systems, and that will be posted this week so that they will have that information for the consumers. That's my quick update on what's going on with us. And that's like the 5% of the of all that we do. Thank you.
I see Jen has her hand up.
Just a quick question. Are these 2 staff that resigned in addition to the other one who resigned, I think, a couple weeks ago? Or are you down 3 people now recently?
Well, we're down more than 3, but the others are in the pipeline for backfilling. But these are 2 new ones. Yeah.
Are any exit interviews happening to get a sense of why these folks are leaving?
Yes, we are doing exit interviews, and they're finding this last one indicated that he was more interested in trying out a different career path. So, we're seeing sometimes it's a more attractive offer, but this time it's just a different career path, and, people are still figuring out what they want to do. So.
Sorry to hear that.
Blake,
That person worked on PFAS, so, yeah. So any questions? I see Blake has his hand up.
Yep, I just had a quick question. Under PFAS, you had mentioned there are a couple systems that you're going to be working with closely based on the EPA's health advisory. And it's my understanding that there's about 160 Massachusetts water systems that are below 20, but obviously above the health advisory. What's special about the couple that you had mentioned rather than all 160?
So when I said couple, I meant everyone who's below 20. So sorry for using couple, but it's couple. When I think about, we have 1,600 systems. It's a small group. So if you're below 20, you're going to be hearing from us. But everyone will be hearing from us.
Okay.
And anyone who needs assistance, I encourage them to contact us as soon as they want to. But I would think early next week, we will have specific information going out.
Thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it.
And forgive me for using couple. I must now say, is 100 a handful? I don't know.
I don't know, Vivette, but don't forget that you're already dealing with like 136 over 20. So add the 160 under 20, and it's a significant amount of assistance needed to our water supply community.
Yep, and don't forget the private well owners that we will be dealing with as well. It is a significant amount of work.
Could I ask you on that? I mean, I know that there was sort of, DEP stepped up to take on the funding piece that the legislature gave for the private wells, but at what point does that transition out of your hands and over to DPH to kind of help those private well owners?
I don't have any information on that, but I will take the question back. No information on that. I mean, I'm seeing some bills out there that speak to private wells and different things, but I have no information.
Yeah, I mean, I came across the issue in Westminster, which seems pretty significant and seems like it would be quite a huge resource load to deal with that particular issue alone. And so I guess I would just ask you to bring that back and say, either if DEP is taking this on, then maybe you need even more support to deal with the private well stuff. Because think about it. If we're now going to be talking about all those private wells that detected PFAS below 20, there's a huge issue here.
The other concern too is that, like, if we are below the 20, but now we have to look at the new numbers, is there labs out there that can go that low? And if not, how do we do piloting to make sure that we can meet those numbers, spending money on, the pilot, and we can't even test to make sure that the pilot works, to meet the new numbers? That's my only concern. Obviously I'm using GAC, and I've got a new plant coming, being built right now, and I have it set up infrastructurally wise to take a GAC skid, but are we going to be doing that and not being able to still meet the new advisory numbers, which that obviously is an issue, because is it a waste of money now, et cetera? So it's a little alarming that they went and threw these numbers out, and there's no way we can even test to figure out if we can even meet those numbers. So it's a little alarming.
Well, it is a health advisory and it's a recommendation. The way in which it's done, posted it out there. It's in the public arena. So we will be working closely to figure out how systems will address this, and it'll take us some time, but it will be case by case as we move forward as to what is feasible, given what's going on with the information we're receiving. I saw Jim had his hand up.
Yes.
Good morning. A couple questions. On the advice that you'll be putting out next week about the PFAS advisory EPA put out, will it be like wording for water systems to use? Considering my concern is a lot of systems this month are publicizing their PFAS and PFOA results in their CCR. So, a lot of residents have seen the EPA advisory. Then soon after, they're getting the CCR with the first time their PFAS, PFOA results staring them right in the face. I just have a feeling it's going to cause a lot of angst, and I just want to make sure the wording coming out is going to help the water systems, be able to express to the public accurately, what's going on, the difference between the Massachusetts standard, the advisory, etc. Because I think there's going to be a lot of confusion, if you will. I know a lot of the systems I've seen that, I've seen the CCRs, they've already written in, we meet mass compliance standards, here they are, first time, but the PFAS and PFOA do not meet the EPA guidelines. So it's going to be kind of really confusing right off the bat. It's kind of unfortunate they both come in the same month. It's going to be fresh in everyone's brain. And the other question I had on the private well end of it is, I know the UMass funding is ending the end of June. Is there any possibility that's going to be extended to help you with this outreach to the homeowners?
Great questions. And insofar as messaging, the answer is yes. We will attempt to explain or help water suppliers to explain, but it's a complicated explanation when the folks don't necessarily understand the difference between a health advisory and what an MCL does and how an MCL is built. So we're working on that as part of our review. And timing, you know, yesterday, all of the folks who worked on the free sampling for private wells, we met out at UMass and kind of had a debriefing on our program because we're wrapping up the end of June. And now we have this additional information, and we are still trying to figure out how we can support the private wells going forward. So as part of this time that now, while we're working on how we move forward, we are looking at, is there an opportunity here to continue some aspects of that program? But it's because to set up that program takes time. So everything's being placed on the list of, how we could move forward, but the timing is just, like you said, it's really tight.
If I recall some recent legislative effort, and I forget whether, because there's a lot of sort of funding bills out there right now, it was either the budget or one of the bonding bills did kind of speak to some of the recommendations that the task force made. And I think some of that was related to additional technical assistance. But as far as I know, not anything definitive on that yet.
And it's the timing, because, I mean, if something will be set up, how do you get from the end of June, which is, any minute now, to...
Did you have any unexpended funds that were designated to that program that ANF would consider allowing being rolled over?
No, the only way we would have unexpended funds is if for projects where PWS might have planned to spend more in their corrective action, but in fact they spent a little bit less, so it would be like negligible amounts. So nothing that can be really helpful. Yeah. But we are looking at everything. We are looking at everything. And we're doing all of that right now because we hope by, Monday to have some good ideas of how we go forward. So all of the information that we receive from you, all your comments, suggestions, we really appreciate that because we're considering everything.
I'll just say that we held a brief call with a couple of our committees yesterday, and just so you're aware, at least one utility got questions about the health advisory, and they're building new treatment. To Dave's point, they were communicating that the questions were from the customers. If we're spending this money on the treatment plant, are we going to meet the health advisory? To which the answer was, we can't tell you that because we can't test for that. To which the point was, then why are you asking us to spend this money? So that may be a messaging piece that you want to talk to the second floor about, is that there are going to be those customers who then don't want to spend the money if they're still not going to get pure, clean drinking water based on that health advisory.
Yes, that's a good question. So if you have specific questions you want to make sure will show up in a Q&A to be helpful to water suppliers to explain, give us those questions, because sometimes we think we've, come up with the perfect question, but there's a twist on it that, you would see better. So please send us those questions. Also, the EPA health advisory or their lifetime numbers. So we have to explain that as well. And I'm not expecting that EPA is going to be able to give us a lot of explanation. So we do have the New England toxicologists all meeting to discuss the health advisory and to also like figure out if they're like on the hazardous waste side, imminent hazard levels and things of that nature. And in addition to that, people like myself are meeting in the region to see what we can learn from each other and to have some type of consistent messaging, because I mean, as much as we can, because I'm sure everyone's going to be seeing information from everywhere. And we want to try to see if we can be as close as possible in our messaging. So, you know, we said PFAS was a forever chemical. It's definitely a forever workload. So I'm sure water suppliers are prepared for the forever workload part, because we are definitely trying to prepare for the forever workload part. Any other questions on PFAS or any of the other, like, you know, stuff on the immediate list that we're trying to get out? I just want to encourage everyone to be sure to read the biweekly in the main. It may not, you know, have any really deep information that you're looking for, but what it does is give you an idea of the priority compliance work that water suppliers need to make sure that they're doing while they're wrestling with, you know, these emerging issues.
I don't see any other hands up at this point, or at least on my screen.
David,
Yeah.
I wanted to mention, after Yvette had started speaking, I didn't want to interrupt, but Jason, who's president of the Plymouth County Waterworks Association and works in the East Bridgewater Water Department, joined the call. And Jason, I'll let you tell us how to pronounce your last name, because I don't
Trepanier.
mess it up. Welcome. How do you pronounce it? Oh, you're on mute.
That would be Trepanier.
Jason Trepanier. Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, again, I don't see any other hands up or questions for Yvette. Thanks, Yvette, for the update. Clearly this PFAS issue is a lot of pressure on ourselves, but we also recognize the amount of pressure that these new numbers are going to put on DEP as well. I can only imagine the amount of staff that will be required to just stay on top of that one issue going forward. And then we have what UCML 5 coming up, which is just another door that will open, I'm sure, more and more of these forever chemicals out there. So it's definitely not going to get any easier for any of us, clearly. Is there any public comments before we adjourn or make a motion to adjourn?
Dave, I just have one question, maybe just, Kathy, I know you said the August meeting will entertain the rate discussion. Presumably there's also a vote there that day. And I think I've asked in the past that there be some at least brief conversation about where that's headed so that the organizations can take it back to their governing bodies and, you know, be ready to vote in August. So could DEP comment on whether or not there's any consideration being put forward to raise that or to keep it the same or to lower it? That was the funny part, right?
Yes, that's very...
There have been no discussions about raising the rate.
So we shall all go back to our organizations and make sure they are comfortable with $9.50 per million gallons. I believe that's where we're at. Is that correct, Kathy?
I believe that's correct. Yvette, you haven't heard any discussions about changing the rate, right?
No.
Okay, I think that's the message.
Thank you. That's helpful for us to go back and make sure we're prepared for August.
All right. And motion for adjournment?
I'll make the motion, Blake.
I second it.
Who was the second? Was that Tom again?
That was Sean.
Sean, okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I just like a unanimous. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Kathy. And we'll see everybody in August, if not sooner.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Take
you very
care.
much.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Enjoy your summer.
Thank you.